We're going to talk about modulation effects in this video, but before we just jump in and look at a plugin and listen to what it sounds like, actually talking about some of like the technical aspects and how to achieve similar things without having a plugin do it for you is actually a lot more useful than having like 80 or 90 plugins that all do different things. If you understand the underlying concepts, there are so many effects that you can generate without having to go to a plugin to get the effect that you're looking for. So we're going to bring in a chorus effect here that comes bundled with this program and talk about how we could kind of emulate that without actually having to bring in that plugin. So this is going to be a lot of fun, and this is a really cool way to try and understand the effects that you're bringing in. If you listen to them, if you watch and see what's happening, and you understand the basics of sound and some of these principles that we've already covered, you should be able to get some really cool results. And remember, there's always more than one way to accomplish something, and every way you go about it is going to have a slightly different sound. So in some contexts, what we're about to do right here might actually be more useful to you than bringing on a plugin that supposedly is doing the same thing. So I'm going to go in here and grab the chorus, and we're just going to listen to what it does. We'll start with it off.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
And then bring it in.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
So the first thing I notice is that this has suddenly gone from a mono signal, meaning that those left and right channels, when we look at them in here, are identical. It's going from a mono signal into something that is stereo. How could that possibly be happening? If I go in here and I bring in a tool device, we know that if I go and I drag out the width, it's not going to make a difference.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
Because remember, this is all about balance. So if there is some balance between the left and the right channels, I could enhance that. I could then bring those parts up and take away what's happening in that middle channel. So to do that, I'm going to have to create a duplicate of this right now. So I'm going to duplicate this out. And now we have two versions. And if they're both just in their regular states, nothing's been done to them, it's just going to be louder.
My soul, happy friends.
But the second I go into one of these guys and make a change specifically to the panning, we're then going to have more energy, more signal in one channel or the other. So let's change the pan on this one.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
So now if we group these together and we look at this meter, we'll be able to see that there is an imbalance between the left and the right.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
But that's not the only thing that's going on. We could add a tool here, and we could increase the width now if we wanted.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
But all that's really doing is pushing it even further to the right. And when we look at the chorus effect and we watch the meter here, you'll notice that something else is happening.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
So it seems to be moving. You see at some points it's more emphasizing the left channel, and at other points it's more emphasizing the right channel. And that right there is saying that we have a modulation effect. Something is causing that change to happen to the pan position with the duplicate signal. And I'm going to explain how this comes back to delay in just a second. But for now, why don't we go ahead and emulate? We'll emulate that. So we'll go to our secondary one here, and we have the tool on. We have this pushing to the right. Let's make sure the chorus is off. Good. So we should now have that version we were listening to before.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night. My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
So if I want to get the same kind of effect we were just looking at on that chorus, I need to somehow move this pan position. And here's where the modulation comes into play. In this program, I actually have a device that will do that. And you don't have to worry about this if you don't have a plugin like that. It doesn't matter. This is all about understanding the concept. And if you wanted to, you could go in and draw automation of the pan going back and forth. It really wouldn't be that difficult. But for visual guidance, having this actual LFO device and being able to see the shape and everything, that's quite useful. So I'm going to go in here now, and I'm going to have this LFO modulate the pan position.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
And now if I wanted, I could go in, I could change the speed or the depth if I decrease depth, and you'll see these two exact controls when we bring in our modulation effect. It's not going to pan as hard left and right, and if I change the speed, it'll either go faster or slower. So
my soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night. My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
So now we're getting that change, and we can increase the speed or decrease the speed. And if I was to go in here to the chorus effect and change the rate and the amount, you can imagine amount kind of being like depth and rate being speed. But the chorus effect isn't necessarily going to adjust the speed of like the panning differential. More likely it's changing the actual time, because time is a big part to chorus. Because if we go back again and listen to the chorus effect,
my soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
I'm increasing rate.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
But it doesn't seem like it's making a change to the width. It doesn't seem like it's making that part move any faster or slower, because what this LFO is really controlling is time. And if we zoomed in here, we can see that the time is going from 3 milliseconds up to 40 milliseconds. And for a chorus, that's maybe a little bit extreme, but you don't need to focus on the times that specifically. But what this is saying is that even at like 40 milliseconds, this is still slow, or excuse me, this is still slow enough to a point where we're not going to hear like a distinct echo, or I should say it's fast enough to the point where we're not going to hear any kind of distinct echo and hear two versions of the signal. It's going to still sound like it's just one and they're combined.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night. My soul, happy friends.
So how are we going to be able to emulate this time difference? Well, we do know that it's just a basic delay that's going on here. So if I go to one of these secondary ones and I nudge it over ever so slightly, got to make sure I turn this off, I should be able to get some different like tonal variations based on the delay time I choose. So let's try that out.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
So that's probably too far. We're actually hearing that echo come into play. So let's bring it back.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night. My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
But the issue I'm having now is that I can't actually take that time and I can't modulate it, which is what I really want to do. I want to be able to modulate the time of this independent to the modulation that's going on right now, which is making this more of a stereo signal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this back in time, and I'm going to bring in a delay effect. All right, if I bring in the delay effect and I put it to 100%, I should be able to get a different time going on. So let's go into the effects that we have and grab that frequency echo. And right now, I need to put this mix up to 100%. And here you can see I have my delay time, and this is going from 0.01 milliseconds up to 1 second. But we need to stay roughly in that range that we saw here with our built-in chorus effect, which was going from 3 milliseconds. So that would be all the way up to here, up to maybe 20, 30, 40 milliseconds. So let's try this out and see what happens. So I'm going to start all the way at the bottom.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night. My soul, happy friends.
I still want to keep that movement going on, so I had to switch the order around.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night. My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night. My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
And then the last thing I have to do is just get another modulator to impact that delay time, because that's what's actually going on with this modulator here. This LFO device, that is impacting what we have going on with the time for whatever is set in the course. So I'll go back. I'm going to pull out another LFO device. And here's where I have to be particularly careful with the depth control, because if it goes too far, it's going to go beyond what a chorus would be. So I bring this in, probably have this one go a lot slower. And I actually do have two LFOs I could choose from if I wanted to just put this in one. That's not important though. And let's go ahead and have this impact the delay time. Okay, so maybe up to like 40 or so. All right, that should be good.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
Change the speed.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night. My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night. My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night. My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
And just like that, we've pretty much made our own chorus effect. And if I wanted to push this even further out into like stereo land, I could go and I could grab the tool effect and I could put this on the group channel and I could add additional width.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night. My soul, happy friend.
And then even here, I have like a dry and a wet control because this right here is just the original signal. So if I want to push more wet,
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
I could do it. Or if I want more dry and less wet,
my soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night. My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
But if you want the biggest effect, normally you're going to put the chorus at like a 50-50, and that tends to really, really do it. All right, so this is just an example of how, with a little bit of knowledge, you can actually emulate the same sort of thing. All right, if you look and see, okay, this is a chorus effect, how could I break that down, and how could I create my own? And that's basically what we've done here at the start of the video. Now, I do want you to consider that there may be times when creating your own kind of chorus effect or stereo widening effect might come in very handy, and it might be more useful than actually going with a plugin. So don't think that just because there's a lot of manual steps and maybe you're not using like a fancy dancy processor, that it doesn't have a place, because it absolutely does. And I know personally there are situations in certain instruments where doing things yourself and getting that stereo width control right on your own, even if it means a few more steps, it can really give you the results you're looking for as compared to, let's say, going with the plugin. But here we're going to take a look at one of these plugins, and it is called the TAL Chorus LX64. And with this one, it's a very simple little device, but gives you a lot of variety in terms of chorus sounds. And that's why I've brought it in here, because I absolutely just love the sound of this thing. So we have here a volume control, a dry wet, and a stereo width, and nothing else except for these two different versions. So if I play my mono signal right now and I don't have either chorus enacted,
my soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night. My soul.
Right? The stereo width is going to do absolutely nothing because we have no imbalance. If we did have an imbalance in this signal, all we would be doing is just pushing that more like we do when we bring in the tool device. But when I bring in one of these choruses, we'll start to see an impact.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
And now let's push down to stereo.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
And then we can choose the dry wet. And again, with these effects, for the biggest impact, you're going to kind of want it around 50%.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night. My soul, happy friends.
And now we have two different chorus modes. So we could try mode 2. It has a little bit more obvious of a sound.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night. My soul, happy friends.
Or we can bring them both in.
My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night. My soul, happy friends, shall be with you that night.
So for this particular sound in this voice, I honestly prefer the way it sounds when we created that sort of chorus on our own. And one final thing I'll point out is that when you have a lot of these like analog emulation synthesizers, you a lot of times see a chorus effect built into them, some kind of a modulation effect that's going to add that stereo width. And this is really useful because if you had a synthesizer, and some of these really are very mono, they don't have a lot of voices, you can't really push them out wide, having that chorus is what's going to give you that space in the middle. And this is why I look at something like a chorus effect or a flanger, some of these modulation effects, I consider them to be very spatial effects because they're using the delay, but they're using the delay to create width for you. And that width is what's so important when you're making like a full mix and you want that thing to be really stereo. You don't want somebody to necessarily know that you're panning things like hard left and hard right, but you do want room down the middle for the vocals or for the kick drums or whatever. And this is now such a common thing that's done in music today and the mixes you hear today, and you may have just never really known about it. But really a chorus effect, these modulation effects, they're really all about space.